If you had to define yourself by one word, what would it be? And let's say it has to be a noun. Can't be an adjective. You can't say you're kind or funny, it has to be a noun. So what are you? Are you a worker, a writer, artist? Or maybe you're a student, an athlete, or a musician? Or are you a mother? A father? For every character in Hollow Knight Silksong, they already have an answer. They're a pilgrim, a sprint master, a roach keeper, a servant, or a child. These labels, these identities, are the emotional core of Silksong and are central to Hornet's character and her development throughout the game. But before we dive in, let me quickly summarize the game. If you want to skip to the actual analysis, go to this timestamp. Spoiler warning for the entire game, by the way. Silksong begins with Hornet, the princess of Hallownest, both worm and weaver, down at the bottom of Moss Grotto after breaking free from those who captured her. The first chunk of the game has Hornet making her way up towards the Citadel, the giant gleaming capital of Farloom. But this kingdom is in the thrall of a curse, because of course it is. The higher being of this kingdom, Grandmother Silk, was forced into slumber by her children, the Weavers, who crafted the Citadel as one massive trap to escape her control. There, in a cocoon of silk, Grandmother Silk lashes out with threads, ensnaring the innocent pilgrims and the hundreds of corpses littering the kingdom. The game has multiple endings, but we'll focus on what many players are calling the true ending. After a long, arduous journey, full of enemies and friends alike, Hornet ascends to the top of the Citadel. There, she meets a snail shaman in disguise, the Caretaker, who helps her craft a trap of their own to eradicate Grandmother Silk for good and to free Farloom from her silken curse. The trap works, but Grandmother Silk manages to grab Hornet and threatens to drag her down into the void, only to be stopped by her own daughter, Lace. The two are swallowed by the void, but because Lace is trapped with her, Grandmother Silk refuses to let her be killed, even though she betrayed her. With threads soaked by void, she lashes out anew, threatening to destroy Farloom entirely. With the help of the snail shamans, Hornet must now collect enough power in order to reach inside her own memory to procure an Everbloom, the only thing that wards against the void. With the bloom in hand, she descends to the Abyss, the home of the void, and dives deep within to confront a Lace who has been corrupted. After a grueling fight, Hornet breaks Lace free. Grandmother Silk then uses the last of her power to give Hornet enough silk to attempt to soar up and out of the void, but it fails. Before the two are destroyed, however, they are saved by the Shades of the Vessels, Hornet's siblings. Grandmother Silk is destroyed, her void-soaked threads disintegrating. Hornet and Lace, saved from the void, share one last look, and then the game ends. There's a lot that goes on in this game. As I was playing through it, I couldn't help but wonder what its core was, its center. What's the central idea? The theme, if you will. Surprise, there's more than one. There's the theme of motherhood. There's the theme of coercive control and how religion can be warped and weaponized. There's probably more that you could find that I'm not thinking of right now. But what spoke to me the most, what I finally realized was the emotional core, was this theme of identity, particularly through two characters, Hornet and Lace. We'll start with Lace. Oh boy. Psst. Hey, if you're liking the video, why not subscribe? I want to hit 5,000 by the end of the year, and hey, maybe even 6,000? Alright, sorry, I'll get out of your way. Back to Silksong. In the game, Lace acts as the rival and one of, if not the, antagonist. Hornet's first encounter with her has her saying she'll skewer you here and now, pluck that flickering life right out of you. Suffice to say, she makes her intentions very clear. Later on, we learn that Lace is not a bug at all, but a being made entirely from silk. Specifically, a child, a daughter. Grandmother Silk, after creating the Weavers as her daughters only to be betrayed by them, decided to create a child who would be perfectly loyal to her, perfectly dependent. Being made from silk, Lace cannot survive on her own. Her form needs to be replenished. If she isn't, she'll turn gray and wither. We see this in Phantom, another silk child who was discarded into bile water by Grandmother Silk. Lace knows she was made to be dependent, and she resents it. Oh boy, does she resent it. She hates her form, evident by her dialogue after Hornet defeats her for the second time. She says, "You've bared the truth of my pathetic, empty shell." When Hornet says she's a life born entirely from thread, Lace responds with, "Life? You're too generous. This weak, wasting existence. This was not life, just a husk shaped to act as a child." She resents her existence, and yet she believes that is all she is, all she can be. Yes, she does rebel as she tries to kill Hornet before Grandmother Silk can have her, and she'll certainly spit and scorn her mother's name, but she will always return to the cradle. She will always long for her mother's love, evident by the dialogue we can find while using the needle in near her. She says things like, "See me, your daughter, see me cut, see me serve, see me, your knight." This is only supported by the final line of dialogue after that second encounter. Before Lace collapses, she says to Hornet, "After all, it's you that she wants, is it not?" Even that act of rebellion I mentioned earlier, wishing to kill Hornet to deprive her mother of Hornet's power, is also fueled by jealousy. She fears that Hornet will take her place as the beloved daughter, which would deprive Lace of her purpose, this identity that has been, quite literally, forced upon her. The same goes for Phantom. We see this same resentment and mourning in a memory found in the exhaust organ. Phantom, talking to Lace, says things like, "She spun us to break, she spun us to fade. Why us? Why us, sister?" Phantom is what Lace could become, old, grey, and forgotten, forever bound to their duty, devoid of independence, longing for release through the only means they know, death. We know that is what Phantom longs for through their entry in the Hunter's Journal, which says, though grey with age, their frayed form suggested a being strung from silk, one who welcomed a decisive end in combat over a slow decline. But Lace has yet to reach that point. When the opportunity arises, when Grandmother Silk is being dragged into the void, threatening to do the same to Hornet, Lace sees her chance. In what she sees as a final act of rebellion, Lace cuts off her mother's arm to free Hornet and force her into the void. We don't see Lace again until Hornet goes down into the abyss. There, just above where Grandmother Silk rages deep in the void, Lace appears as a sort of projection. She and Hornet share a brief conversation, one that reveals that Lace is more than content to let herself die alongside her mother, uncaring if Farloom is utterly destroyed in the process. She says, "Letting you live was my rebellion, Spider. I've denied my mother your silken strength. I've won." She can thrash and waste, and know her pathetic, broken child caused the mortal wound. Rejoice, and let it all come down. At first, this may seem like Lace has broken free from her identity as a child. She rebelled. She is now the cause of her mother's demise. But her content at fading away only tells me that she has not realized her potential. She still only sees herself as this pathetic, broken child. She's still swallowed by this identity, now trapped deep within a void of her own making. That's Lace's character, a silken child so ensnared by a purpose and identity forced upon her that she can't see any alternative, a child so filled with resentment that she would only laugh as the world came down if it meant destroying the being who created her. Now let's talk about our protagonist, Hornet. Hornet is the child of the Pale King and Hera. One is a worm, a higher being, while the other is a weaver, or at least part weaver, a creature evolved by Grandmother Silk with the ability to generate silk inside one's own shell. Hornet has this ability, as well as several traits of a higher being, elongated life, perhaps even immortality, as well as an instinct to dominate other bugs, which she tells to the caretaker, one of the snail shamans, saying, "Dominance, it seems, is baked deep in my blood," as too, no doubt, for the one up top. In the first game, Hollow Knight, Hornet is the self-proclaimed protector of Hollownest, despite the kingdom already being in ruins. In Silksong, she is ripped away from that self-imposed duty. She's thrust into this new kingdom, this new adventure. Away from Hollownest, away from everything she's ever been tied to, she now has to grapple with what and who she is. What is she going to do in this new strange land? Is she a weaver? A queen? Merely a warrior? Should she act on that instinct of dominance? Except for the majority of the game, Hornet doesn't really grapple with any of that. Not yet. The moment she breaks free from her captives, she has a clear objective in mind: ascend to the Citadel and confront the bugs who captured her. This objective eventually shifts to focus on Grandmother Silk. If she wants to be free from Farloom, she must confront the higher being who brought her here in the first place. For the first while, Hornet is dead set on this objective, which could be boiled down to simply survival. Whenever other bugs ask her to help with their wishes, she always says, "if the path permits." She'll only help if the problem either impedes her own journey or if the problem lands in her path. But even that begins to shift. Naturally, when you're playing through Silksong, you as the player will want to complete these wishes, which are side quests, either because you're curious, you want a higher completion rate, or you just want the reward. Whatever your reason, this means that in your playthrough, Hornet is going out of her way to complete these wishes. She's straying from her central objective. Of course, you can argue and say that she's only completing these wishes for the rewards, and she does say as such for some, but she also starts to help these bugs simply because she wants to. Take Bellhart, for example. If Hornet wanted to, she could have ignored this town that's completely ensnared by a silken curse, one more concentrated than the one that dominates Farloom. But instead, when she encounters this town, a new objective appears: to save Bellhart. She wants to save them, even though it doesn't guarantee her any sort of reward or help in her main objective. As the game progresses, we see her reactions to completing other wishes. When the caretaker says that her saving pilgrims and completing wishes is strange, she responds with, "You find it strange, sir? I've found some solace in the service, and the rewards received have proved a boon on my journey." That first part, her finding solace in the act, is important, and a message echoed by other dialogue, such as when she speaks with the flea master after finding lots of fleas. She says, "Though I am long accustomed to traveling alone, following your journey and sharing some part in its progress has been a warm thing." Not only does Hornet find solace in helping other bugs, we also see her bond with those she encounters several times, such as the Flea Master, Sherma, and other pilgrims like Pilby if the player speaks to them enough times. With her helping, completing wishes, and making friends with other travelers, Hornet is slowly growing out of her previous role as the solitary sentinel of a dead kingdom. Something I find very telling is that to begin Act 3 of the game, which leads to the true ending, the player has to complete a certain number of wishes. This means that, canonically, Hornet willingly completes those wishes. Keep in mind, she doesn't know that completing these wishes will trigger the caretaker into planning the trap of Soul and Void and will then trigger Act 3. She doesn't know any of that. She's helping all of these bugs because she wants to, even though it draws her away from that central objective. Another interesting tidbit is the conversation between Hornet and Second Sentinel. Second Sentinel is a construct created by the Citadel, tasked with protecting the Citadel and its inhabitants, but they have been asleep for a long time. When Hornet repairs them and wakes them up, she tells them that their Citadel has fallen to ruin and wonders if they will still continue their task. She specifically says, "Some would argue that standing guard over a kingdom's corpse is a foolish task, empty of meaning." She's talking to the Second Sentinel, but I also believe this pertains to her previous status as the Sentinel over Hallownest. She now sees that task as futile, empty of meaning. She will not return to it. And when Act 3 is triggered, when Farloom is partially destroyed by Grandmother Silk's thrashing, we see the final shift in Hornet's character. Now, instead of merely acting out of survival to free herself from Grandmother Silk's desire, instead of being a solitary sentinel, Hornet now wants to save Farloom. Remember, she could simply leave. There isn't anything coming after her anymore. But she stays. During Acts 1 and 2, if you try to leave Farloom, Hornet will stop and say that something still hungers for her. If she tried to leave, they would just bring her back. But during Act 3, the dialogue changes. Instead, she says, "If I chose to head beyond, I would abandon Farloom to a collapse of my making. While I live and still possess the strength to act, I will not allow that end to come to pass." This implies that Hornet feels some guilt for enacting that trap, but I don't think it's just guilt fueling her to save Farloom. Let's take another look at the dialogue between her and that projection of Lace in the abyss. When Lace tells her to rejoice in Farloom's destruction, Hornet says, "I will not. I have already stood the sentinel for one dying land. That role I will never play again." There's more than just guilt at play here. You could say there's some trauma involved. Hornet witnessed the destruction of one kingdom and refuses to see such a sight again. I think she also has an attachment to this place and the bugs within. All of this is bundled up into a resolve to save Farloom. That is her new purpose, her new identity. Through her trials in Farloom, through meeting travelers and pilgrims alike, through helping every flea, saving Bellhart, donating to the various settlements throughout, and completing wishes both big and small, Hornet has shed her previous identity as the Sentinel of Hallownest. Now she is a friend of the fleas, wish granter, and Farloom's defender. Now, in a video analyzing Silksong's story, it would be remiss of me if I didn't mention Red Memory. Red Memory acts as a flashback sequence as Hornet dives into her memory to retrieve the Everbloom. It is, arguably, the emotional climax of the game's story. The first memory we see is her as a little child with the Weavers. The Weavers tell her to show them her craft, which is her innate skills with silk and the ability to generate silk within her. They tell her to show it as only they can teach, and to prove that she is more weaver than worm. The next memory has a little hornet with Hera, her mother. She says, "Ignore them, daughter. They're whispers. Greater, grander, weaver, guardian queen, those are their desires, not your own. Certainly not mine. Only if you resist them, you might see it, another hope, beyond." That hope, that Hornet may forge her own path, her own purpose and identity, that is the core of Silksong. The third memory shows Hornet training with Hive Queen Vespa. She insists that Hornet be faster, stronger, so that she may defend herself against those who would seek to kill or claim her. She wishes that Hornet would be strong enough to survive their world, that she may live on. The final memory is a conversation between Hornet and the White Lady, the third and final mother figure in her life. The White Lady says, "For our ways you will think us harsh, you will think us uncaring, unrepentant," which is what I believe, referring to the creation of the vessels. She goes on to say, "And so we must seem, for such is the cost of our wish." As for what that wish is, Hornet tells us. It's strength. In mind, in care, in claw. Strength enough that I may live to see a world better than our own, or to craft a world as I desire. That was the wish of my mother, of my mentor, and of you. The wish is the same as the hope I mentioned earlier. As all mothers should, they hope for Hornet to live life the way she wants to create the identity that she wants to bear. But even if Hornet has begun to fulfill that wish, she can't completely forget her past, nor can she ignore it. That is the truth of her world, and it is the same in ours. The past can't be erased, no matter how much we wish it could be. Many people cling to the past, or they resent it, or some even try to ignore it. But in order to truly heal, that past needs to be confronted. Just as Hornet delves into her red memory in order to procure the Everbloom, so too do we need to dive into our pasts so that we may find a light of our own. Hornet may have left her station at Hallownest, may have survived the fury of Farloom, have borne its dangers and witnessed its wonders, but always she will remain a daughter of Hallownest. That is what she declares before diving into the abyss, Everbloom firmly in claw. This is the only time that Hallownest is mentioned by name in the entire game, and I don't think that's accidental. Team Cherry wanted us to remember this moment, this proclamation of who Hornet is. She has taken her past and molded it into something she wants, something she has claimed, and that darkness, that void below all things, that haunting past, she will no longer fear. It's almost like an act of forgiveness. If you spent your entire life loathing someone or something, that is what you will be. It will hurt and you will never be free. But you can't just let go either. The past will still be there no matter what you do. So how do you heal? How do you move on? According to Silksong, you must know that painful past and accept it. Let's go back to the red memory, to what the White Lady says to Hornet before giving her the Everbloom. She says, "For her you become, who knows clear our desire and has seen full the darkness beneath our house. I would show you the gift. Witness the first light, the only means we possess to resist that void with which our family is forever linked. Reach forth, child grown strong, wrest it from their remembrance, burn yourself free from our sad fate." Here, the White Lady is saying that Hornet has become someone who knows the wish mentioned earlier and has also witnessed and accepted the dark past of their family. With that, she can grasp that first light, the Everbloom, and burn herself free from all of the trauma and pain of the past. She can seize her identity, the one she has chosen. With that light, with her new purpose, she can dive into the void without fear. She can dive deep into that oblivion to save the land she has fought and defended. In case it isn't clear yet, I believe that the Everbloom symbolizes this entire message that I've been rambling about for this whole video. To accept the past and forge an identity to wield in a future of your own. And the void, that endless darkness, is what we must face in order to achieve that wish. It is oblivion, trauma, fear, guilt, everything that would prevent us from healing and progressing. And here, deep in the void, is where it all comes to a head. Lace has been consumed by darkness, so intent on withering away, but Hornet refuses. This one, the dark shall not take. Hornet and Lace are two sides of the same coin. Both are princesses of a kingdom in ruins. Both have or had maternal figures who would impose their wants and desires onto their daughters. Both are grappling with their identity, to be either a weaver, worm, a queen or warrior, or to be a child, forever dependent. Only one has managed to rest free, and she will not let the other sink any deeper. Another important note is the character of the Knight, the player character from Hollow Knight. They're briefly seen in this cutscene to rescue Hornet and Lace from the void after the Everbloom is destroyed. Besides this just being so freaking cool, I was that one Leonardo meme when I saw them, it can also build upon this theme I've been outlining. The Knight is a vessel, right, who is supposed to be completely devoid of will. They're supposed to be empty, emotionless, essentially. But what do we see here? The Knight choosing to save their sister. Not only that, but all of the shades, all of the siblings are united together in this moment. The Knight is no longer defined by their role as a vessel. They've surpassed that in the name of saving their family. If that's not forging a new identity, I don't know what is. This scene can also be interpreted as all of the shades forgiving Hornet for the horrors enacted upon them. Hornet may not have been at fault for what they endured, but I believe she still feels some guilt for it all. Them saving her is a demonstration of their forgiveness, that Hornet can truly move on from that dark past. It's a beautiful story, and it's a message that really resonated with me, if you couldn't already tell. But I don't think it's the only theme that can be gleaned from this game. As I said at the beginning, I could make a whole nother video just talking about the theme of motherhood, but there's already a video out there that sort of touches on that. This one by Fat Brett. That video greatly inspired me to make this one, so I'll link it in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more, and if you've got any thoughts, please leave a comment. I love reading through other people's interpretations and analysis of this game. Any details I missed? What moment in the game spoke to you the most? With all that being said, I'll catch y'all later. See ya!